Hey everyone, it's Ben Hardy here, and in today's we're going to be talking about what dealers are saying is going to happen in the car market over the next few months because, obviously publicly they will say one thing, but in private, just like most businesses, they're going through a hard time, they'll say something that's completely different, right? So we're going to dive into that in today's video. Before getting into the video though, as always, if you want to save time and money the next time you purchase a car, link to my car buying guide in the description down below. And then if you want to see more content just like this, then I recommend you subscribe because I post videos every single day. Let's get into it. So over the course of the last few months, I have been spending a lot more time talking with dealers about the current market situation and, their real thoughts on everything that we are experiencing and everything that they see happening into the future. And I think this is really important information because, dealers are motivated to not really talk about this stuff publicly because if they admit that there's anything, amiss within the car market, then they're basically telling customers to not purchase a car right now, and they definitely don't want that. And so that's why, I think a lot of you will appreciate this kind of like behind the scenes look at what dealers really think is happening. So the first thing that I'm hearing across the board is that car prices are way too high. Yes, dealerships are saying that car prices are too high, whether it be a new car or a used car. And on the used car market side of things, what dealers feel is that it's still overvalued, that used cars still need to lose some more value before the used car market starts to actually make sense. And this is why a lot of dealers are pulling back from purchasing used cars, because a lot of them got hurt over the last few months where they bought used cars from auction or they took them in as trade, and then they're in a position where they have to lose a lot of money if they want to sell that car, and they obviously don't want to continue that. And so yeah, a lot of dealers are pretty negative when it comes to the used car market, and again, they're saying it's overvalued. And so like if a business that basically typically takes used cars and flips them over a pretty short period of time is scared to buy used cars right now, then you as a consumer should probably be terrified of buying a used car right now, because that means that, well, the values just aren't going to be what they are today, tomorrow, if that makes sense. But anyways, moving over to new cars, this is where dealers complain the most. They feel like new cars have gotten way too expensive and that there aren't enough incentives to really push people to buy new cars right now with everything that we're experiencing, right? We have record high inflation, which means that the buying power of the average consumer is at an all-time low. And then on top of that, interest rates are at an all-time high, which also means that the average buying power of the average consumer is just at an all-time low. And dealers just feel like manufacturers need to do something to like remedy this situation. They need to cut prices and they need to release cemented rates at a much more aggressive pace than what they're doing currently. And what you have to remember is dealers ultimately obviously want to make the most amount of profit they can per vehicle, but they don't care how much the actual vehicle costs. Like if a dealership can make $5,000 of profit on a $20,000 vehicle or a $50,000 vehicle, they don't care. They just want to make that amount of profit. And so if a dealer is, selling cars for a certain manufacturer and that manufacturer increases their prices by a margin that's way too high, then that puts them in a position where they're actually going to make less profit than what they would have made if that car was priced at a lower price point. So dealers actually want what consumers want in terms of lower MSRPs. Obviously they want, the markup between MSRP and invoice on a new vehicle, but you guys get the point, right? Dealers basically want what you guys want. And so dealers do feel the same thing that all the consumers feel, and that's that the vehicles are too expensive. Now, obviously, from a consumer side, you're like, it's too expensive because I can't afford it. And then from a dealer side, they're like, it's too expensive because I can't sell it. The next big thing is going to be interest rates, and pretty much every single dealer agrees that interest rates are not only too high, but they need to come down or else things are going to get really bad. Like the auto industry is pretty much tapped out. Like it's really difficult right now to get anyone approved for an auto loan because of debt to income with the average consumer. And then on top of that, if you do end up getting someone approved for an auto loan, it's difficult to get them to accept the payment with how high interest rates have gotten. And so, yeah, dealers are like, yep, this is a huge issue and it needs to calm down. Now, obviously the Federal Reserve is not going to do that anytime soon because, well, they're trying to bring everything down right now to bring down inflation. But yeah, it seems like when it comes to car sales, it's being impacted more than other industries. And we're starting to also see it in the housing market, but it seems like it's just not happening nearly as fast because Unlike the housing market, there isn't really as much of a shortage with cars as there is with a shortage with houses in certain areas. And I mean, frankly, it's a lot easier to build a car than it is to build a house in a relatively quick time frame. And so, yeah, the auto industry is especially hard hit because of these interest rate increases, and dealers definitely agree with that. And they just want the rates to go down. They're just like, please decrease these rates. The next thing that goes along with the first point is that dealers feel like their automakers are not focusing on building enough affordable cars right now, that they're only building expensive cars. There are a lot of dealers that are stuck with quite a bit of inventory right now because all of the vehicles that their automakers are building are the top of the line, shiny models that those automakers think they're going to sell, because automakers are currently targeting higher income demographics because those are the people that still have some level of purchasing power in this economy. But guess what? Those people aren't buying as many cars as you would think that they would be buying because they're just as worried about the economy as someone who is on a budget. And so you have the situation where automakers keep pumping out these expensive vehicles and they're not really building the affordable ones right now, and dealers absolutely hate it. Like if you go to talk to any Toyota dealer, for example, what they're going to tell you is, no, we don't need any more 4Runners. We need Corollas, we need RAV4s, and just cars like that. And, the RAV4 isn't the most affordable car, but you guys get the point. You go ask a Nissan dealer, what do you want? They're going to say, we want Versas and we want base model Nissan Frontiers, right? Affordable vehicles. But guess what? All of these dealers are getting. They're getting the top of the line models. So like at Toyota stores, they're starting to fill up with like fully loaded Camrys and stuff like that, that again, someone on a budget isn't going to go after, and someone who can afford that car isn't going to go after it either, because again, they're concerned about the state of the economy. And so it's a complete mess, but I guess that it's going to help everyone out in the end, because this will bring down car prices with all of the inventory that is stacking up. Now, the next thing that dealers see as a huge issue is just general quality with vehicles, and this even applies to reliable brands like Toyota and Lexus, for example. Dealers are sick and tired of getting cars delivered to them that have major defects or end up having major recalls, because it completely delays the sales process. Like, if I had $1 for every single time a dealer complained to me about them getting delivered, several vehicles and then not being able to sell them because there's some sort of stop sale because of a recall, then man, I would be a very, very rich person. It's a huge issue right now. And I frankly see it when I go and review cars, because the amount of vehicles that I see that are on stop sale right now, it's crazy. Like, they are all over dealer lots. And it's like, oh, why can't you sell this? Oh, it's because of this item. Oh, why can't you sell this? Oh, it's because of this item. Like, it's just a constant issue. And then there are other things that are just quality control issues, like paint defects, just trim pieces like on vehicles that just weren't properly put on, like simple things that you think that a large multi-billion-dollar automaker would be able to figure out, but apparently they can't figure it out in 2022. And then there are other defects that are a lot larger, where functions on a vehicle just straight up won't work whatsoever, like on a brand new vehicle. And the other thing that really kind of makes dealers angry is that they have customers that they'll deliver a car to, and then that customer will be back in a few days with that car and have a laundry list of items that needs to be fixed on it, because again, manufacturer defects. Now, good thing for the customer and the dealer, it's going to be covered under manufacturer warranty, but it still leaves that customer with a bitter taste in their mouth with that brand. And so the chances of them going and purchasing another car from that dealer in the future are a lot less, not because the dealer did anything wrong, but because the dealer represents a brand that doesn't seem to be able to figure out how to build good, reliable vehicles, or at least vehicles that have some level of quality to where you don't have to bring it back to the dealership within a few weeks because half the stuff in the car doesn't work. And then the last big thing is just the general cost of everything. Dealers just don't really see this as something that is sustainable for their business model. And I'm talking about, employee wages for employees that are salaried positions at dealerships, the cost of different parts or services associated with running a dealership. Like, if you don't know, a dealership is a huge enterprise that has just so many different moving parts. Obviously, like as you said, you have the salaried employees, and then you obviously have the sales staff, but the sales staff is only going to get paid if the dealership is, producing profits. But then outside of that, you also have the service department that has its its own little like organization, and everything associated with the service department is so much more expensive now than it was just a few years ago. And then there are other little services that dealers use. Like a lot of dealers will have someone come in and wash the cars on their lots for them that are on their front line so they look nice and shiny. And then, you know, they'll have someone come in and, you know, repair paint defects on their vehicles or fix wheels, just different miscellaneous items like that. Everything is more expensive. And so dealers see it as something that is really impeding business because, again, like I've said over the course of several videos, dealer profits are down. And all of these items are now more expensive. And so it's like these dealers are now having to write bigger checks to just run the business. And then the checks that they're getting cut back to them are significantly smaller. And so they see this as the car industry going into a direction that they don't want it to go into, but it's just reality currently. And so, like I said in a prior video, you're going to continue to see more layoffs at dealers because of all of these cost increases. So that's pretty much going to sum things up for a video talking about what dealers actually think about the market rather than what they are saying in their advertising about how now is the best time to buy because we're giving the best possible deals. I mean, most of them see the reality of the situation. And so, yeah, I think it's kind of refreshing to hear that, well, dealers basically see what we are all seeing. With that being said, I did ask a bunch of dealers recently, like what they would want in an ideal situation, like with where the market's going, like what would you want to happen? And some dealers say that, well, they want to just continue to try to do what they did over the last few years, where that is maximizing profits. And, you know, they don't really care about the volume. Like they would rather sell half as many cars and make more profit per car than, you know, basically go back to how things were in the past where you just had to sell as many cars as possible. Whereas most dealers actually say that in an ideal situation, they just want to sell as many cars as they possibly can. They would rather just make a little bit of profit per car deal than try to, you know, swing for the moon on each car deal, because in that situation, it leads to having a lot more happy customers and it leads to a better relationship with that dealer and the manufacturer, and they think that that is the best possible scenario. So most dealers actually want what most consumers want. It's just getting there, especially in the current market where supply is short with most automakers, prices are super high with most automakers. It's kind of a hard balance to find, and so we'll see if it ends up finally happening. I mean, that's kind of idealistic to think, but you know, maybe one day. I'll see ya.